What's going on? What's going on, everybody? It is the only sports podcast. I'm Will. That's Castino over there. How we doing today?
Oh, that was good. Everything's good. So for those that are just listening, he has a monitor in the background with the Only Sports podcast on it, and he couldn't figure out which way to lean to show it, like an
That's
idiot.
true. It always does
Um,
reverse. I'm so bad with that.
no, I'm doing great, man. And I'm not going to talk about myself today. How about you? How are you doing today?
Well, if anybody, like you said, is watching the podcast, we changed the feng shui of my son's room. So now I have the computers
I can
completely
never,
on
I
the
can
other
never
side of the
tell
room.
because your screen's always just bouncing up and down because you change so
Yeah.
much.
So now behind me, I have his TV, his picture of Michael Jordan, this little thing up there that says D's on it, and it's a peanut. So it's technically D's nuts, if you get that. This thing that says goal. And then because it's spooky season, he put a sticky pumpkin on the wall. So don't let any of those distract you from my beautiful face, Casino. But I know you're just going to be looking at that pumpkin all day.
Did you guys still have the bed that I gifted you?
Yeah, but
The bed
that's in
frame.
my other son's room. This
Ah,
room, it is I don't know where we got this bed. I think we bought this one. But yeah, so big things happening over here, Casino. Everything's changed around. I
I
hate
still have this. I
change.
still have the same gold skyline in the background. That's like poorly framed in this picture as well.
It
Honestly,
is what is that a skyline of? New York?
I don't know. I yes, I guess yeah, because there's the Chrysler Building. I think right. I don't know.
I can't tell.
I can't tell.
But
Is that Chicago?
maybe it's definitely not Las Vegas, which or Boston, which I feel like are the two things that should be the things behind you. But
Oh, well, I mean, I got Vegas stuff everywhere, man.
yeah,
It's
there you
just
go.
don't forget it. Like seriously.
Yeah, my
And
son is
speaking of,
not in
I mean,
Vegas. So.
speaking of Boston stuff, if you want to show, I'll show you. Like, I know you can sometimes see it. We haven't taken that down from Valentine's Day, but all the way up here, I'll show you one of my favorite shot glasses of all time. I think you've had a shot out of it before.
I mean, it wouldn't be shocking. When Casino and I get together, we drink alcohol. That's then we let our inhibitions fall. Oh, he's back. Boston. I don't think I've ever had a shot out of that. But next time when me and Casino
It's
hang out,
hearty. It's
eh,
it's hearty.
when I teach you how
I
to
know
work
I
our
who
social
has had
media
I
accounts,
knew who have taken a shot out of this. My friend the Palmas, both of them. Well, I don't think the one has, but I know one has. I know one has for sure. He comes to Vegas for those Patriots Super Bowls.
only thing I don't like about and now the computer being right here is that's the doorway right behind me. So if anybody comes in this
Well,
doorway,
you talk about your wife walking
that's what
topless
I already told her that. I was like,
all the
that's
time.
done for. But also, if anybody comes up behind me to murder me, you'll probably see it before I do. So you must alert
Oh,
me.
you're gonna be the new yeah, that new streamer that gets murdered.
But man, just imagine our views and our
Dude.
ratings would just be through the roof.
Yeah, but then
But
who's gonna edit? I ain't doing that shit. All right, we're
but
4 minutes in. Let's move on.
that was just you could skip all that. That was just nothing but nonsense.
Well, that's
But
the
as
best
I
part. They
said
get to know a
earlier,
little bit about our
Casino,
lives, okay?
this is supposed to be the only sports podcast. So let's talk about sports. And the big sports news today was Jets lost last night and in kind of embarrassing fashion that looked bad on Aaron Rodgers. So to completely make up for that and put something else in the news regarding the Jets, they traded for Davante Adams this morning. The news is that it's going to be a conditional fourth rounder going to the Raiders that can become a second rounder based on performance. Also, the Raiders are paying none of his salary. So the Jets are picking up his salary and paying it, which must make Hassan Reddick feel great that they won't pay him, but they'll literally pay the salary of another guy
Because
who
it was
wasn't on their
it
team.
again, we know why. It was because Rodgers pulled the trigger on all of it.
Yeah. Well, also, funny enough, last night the game ended with the Jets, which we'll talk about, on a interception that was targeted for their wide receiver Mike Williams, who slipped. The Browns picked it off, ended the game. Now, this is breaking news. The Jets are planning to make wide receiver Mike Williams available for trade after acquiring Davante Adams. So
Silly.
again, everybody has to just play dumb and like act like Aaron Rodgers has he has no say on this team. And then it's like, really, the guy who just intercepted his pass when he fell down immediately is on the trade block after they just traded for his number one wide
Get
receiver
rid of that
target.
guy. Fuck that guy.
But thoughts, Casino, thoughts on what this means for the Jets?
Well, let's get up to the other news real quick before I have my thoughts on that. Is Amari Cooper getting signed by the Bills?
Yes.
I
So
I want to bring
Amari
that up because
Cooper.
I can't wait for game 2.
So as Casino just said, the Bills traded for Browns wide receiver Amari Cooper. The Browns get a 2025 third and seventh round pick. The Bills get Amari Cooper and a 2025 sixth round pick. So basically, they gave up a third round pick to get Amari Cooper. And I mean, Davante Adams, obviously going from the Raiders to the Jets must be ecstatic, but can you imagine going from inarguably the worst starting quarterback in the league to arguably the second best quarterback in the league? I mean, to go from Deshaun Watson to Josh Allen, that is like going from living in a box on the sidewalk to all of a sudden you're living in a mansion in the span of like an hour. That's to me a bigger trade than the Davante Adams Jets one.
Yeah, that's totally true. Why is my I hate internet. Cox Cable, you suck.
Well,
Sorry.
we're also recording in Vegas. I've been getting notes all day that Cox has been in and out of service for Vegas. So if our internet is spotty or bad, I've gotten already 3 emails in the past hour
Ugh, got it.
that
Anyway, but I
Cox is
can't.
out.
I how it's really funny that this trade happens right after that game for both of these teams.
Yes.
Um, let's see here. Oh, what do we got here? Yeah, you just sent me the outage thing. Oh yeah, totally true. Because yeah, everything's just the worst. I'm gonna have to almost probably go to my hotspot here on my phone. Um, anyway, last game of this regular season, you do have Jets Bills, so you'll be able to see these two dynamic receivers go with their dynamic quarterbacks. Um, so I'm excited. I'm excited to see how that works out. And you're saying living in a mansion, talking about Davante Adams. Speaking about Amari Cooper,
Yeah.
living in a mansion. Davante Adams is literally going to be living in a mansion. After the whole trade thing, I don't know if you guys watch or listen to that wonderful, horrible thing called Pat McAfee. He's just I can't stand him. He's just how did you describe him, BJ?
He's the worst guy everybody knows in high school.
There it is.
That's what he is. It's
He
just
is.
and everybody needs to
Uh,
stop pretending like he isn't.
oh gosh, he's just the most dude bro of the bro dudes, and you know you're not for that. Even if you are a bro dude, you're still like, yeah, we're tools. Anyway,
Also, this is not like, oh, he's the jock, and you and I were not nerds in high school.
no,
We played sports, we got
yeah,
laid,
I have a
we
state
had
championship.
friends.
I have a state championship
Yeah.
ring
So this isn't even
in
like
my
that
sports.
thing where it's like nerds are just upset because it's like, no, we weren't popular, we weren't nerds, we were
Dude,
just there.
yeah,
But
I ran cross country, track and field. I have a state ring in that. You know, my sports, your sports, punishment. Oop! Shout out to all of us cross country runners. Boom, boom, boom. I mean, I did sing. I was in choir all 4 years, so I guess I am kind of
oh,
a nerd.
I take back everything I said.
Yeah, yeah, easy.
No.
Anyway, talk about Pat McAfee. So Aaron Rodgers, of course, great friends with him. Tool meeting a tool. So they were on the show this morning, and who shows up in the background at Aaron Rodgers' house? Oh, yeah, Davante Adams. And Pat McAfee made a joke of like, oh, well, now you're gonna be staying with Aaron Rodgers. I hear he's got a big old mansion out there. Are you just gonna take like a whole wing? And Davante, yeah, I just can't. I just can't.
Yeah. There is a very clear Bill Simmons, Pat McAfee feud. I'm 110% Bill Simmons.
all day. And
I
it's not even and I don't even need to know what the argument is. I just know that it's against Pat McAfee, so I'm all for it. I mean, I don't get it. All right. But
Is
yeah,
there
Devontae.
anybody a side note, is there anybody on sports media, like television, that you actually enjoy? Because I don't think I do.
I there's one. There's one when it comes to television, and then I like a radio host as well. Um, so I like Colin Cowherd. I like Colin because I have a
But he's
soft
not ESPN. He's
oh,
Fox.
okay. I thought you were just talking, but no, on ESPN. What's the old white dude that's on part of the interruption?
Oh, yeah. See, I like both Tony Kornheiser and Michael Wilbon.
Thank you. Those
So
well,
pardon the
the other
interruption.
so but the other one's not doing it anymore, right?
No, they're both still doing it.
Oh, then I must have saw like a guest episode. I don't
Yeah.
have cable, so I catch it. Yeah, so those two. Love those two. Besides that, they're the only good thing about ESPN.
Yeah. I
But yeah,
kind of like Mina Kimes. I do kind of like Mina Kimes.
eh, but I do love myself some Colin on Fox Sports, and then it's all Fox Sports Radio, and then late night because I drive home late. You got Big Ben Maller and all the Colin show, and he's just so mean to everybody, and I love it. He's it's just fantastic. Anyway, so that's the news. I'm excited. If let me ask you this: so if each of these teams had those receivers last night, who would have won?
Well, I also, and let's segue Casino into talking about the game last night. That was Bills at Jets. So that game ends up being 23-20. Bills get the victory after, as we just talked about, Aaron Rodgers throws an interception. Kind of not his fault, even though he threw it into triple coverage and zone. But his
But
wide
he had to throw
receiver
35. He had to throw 35 times, and down, and he's down. So
Yeah. Well, and also besides that interception, he actually had a pretty damn good game.
yeah, I
Almost
mean, and
300 yards,
yeah,
23 completions. Brees Hall single-handedly won my fantasy football league game last night. So
yeah.
that
So
was
I'm gonna say if any quarterback throws over 30 times and you get an interception, if you still have a couple TDs, I'm not upset. I'm not upset on you because
yeah.
they're asking you to make a mistake. So
Well,
I mean, these are
also
professional football players we're talking about. It's not
usually it's
just
Casino's
Pop Warner.
fantasy corner. Now it's my fantasy corner
Oh yeah,
because
because I didn't do
Casino's not doing
dude. I
fantasy.
will tell you right now, I'm so happy. My daughter's singing Daniel's Tiger's Neighborhood in the background. It's great show, great show. Um, but I am so happy I've not done fantasy corner or fantasy this year.
It's
Dude, I am so less stressed.
Everyone's injured. Everyone's injured. It's annoying. But
Uh,
last night I literally won my game 121.18 to 120.46. I needed 18 points going into this game. I literally got 19.18. So last night's game saved me. Thank you, Dalton Kincaid and
why do we still have
Brees
Bill
Hall.
Jets on the screen? It's BJ's fantasy corner.
Yeah. But as far as Bills Jets,
And you know what's crazy is Brees Hall did that without a touchdown for you.
I know. And there was multiple times. I mean, he broke away on like a 40-yard run or no, like a 50-yard run and got tackled like at the 5-yard line. And he literally had one guy to beat and he would have got a touchdown. And I was
All right.
shitting bricks.
So to move
But
off of this game, I have one last question for you. So Josh Allen, we've both thought that he was concussed last week. They didn't do concussion protocol. Um, Obviously he looked pretty good this game.
yeah.
Do you think he still had a concussion, or are you thinking that we were just overreacting? I mean, he was 19 for 25 with 2 touchdowns, over 200 yards,
Well, again, he could still have had a concussion and been fine by Tuesday
and
if
he
they
had a
played
rushing touchdown.
Sunday. Because now when we think concussions, we think like Tua concussions where they're knocked out for a month. Like
Yeah,
he could have just had a concussion, been better
two
3
two
days
is
later.
two is literally. Did you ever see that old? I know you did. Not Another Teen movie.
Yes.
Yes, he's that player that is about to get like counting down the concussions till
Yeah.
he's done. Uh, Billy
But
Bob.
No, but last night for the Jets Bills, it wasn't Aaron Rodgers' fault. It wasn't even that interception's fault. Again, the officiating
Officiating.
god awful. Even Aaron Rodgers.
And you know what? It's gonna be god awful. Sorry to keep cutting you off, but it's gonna be god awful now forever because they made everything so murky with these rules.
Yeah. Last night, Aaron Rodgers said, and I quote, "It seemed a little ridiculous. Some of them seemed really bad, including the roughing the passer on me. That's not roughing the passer. We might as well play sarcastaball if we're going to call those things.
Okay, I
I don't
do
know
kind
what
of like.
sarcastaball is,
I don't know, but I think that's pretty great.
but
Sarcastic, but
it's
no, the penalties, as you're alluding to, it was 11 penalties for 94 yards against the Bills and 11 penalties against the Jets for 110.
too
Jesus.
many. Again, too many. Too many. Even Sauce Gardner last night, he said, God didn't make nobody perfect. We play an imperfect sport. We are imperfect players, imperfect refs on the field. We get critiqued by imperfect people as well, talking about the officiating. So, again, I think even if you're the most ardent, like, I don't talk about the officiating. You cannot look at last night's game and say both teams get 11 penalties. Both I mean half of each of those penalties were just kind of, should they be penalties? Should they be ticky tack ones? Again, if you have the quarterback of the team who benefited from a roughing the passer call coming out after the game and saying that wasn't roughing the passer on me, then I mean, what are we doing here? Like, again, and everybody just tries to do this shit where it's like, okay, let's talk about the games, but officiating had nothing to do with it. And then it's like, did you watch the game? Did you watch the fourth quarter when every other play,
There was, I
like,
mean, there was no flow to the game. Everything
no,
was just, it was
just complete
choppy,
stop.
choppy, choppy.
But
I
I mean,
mean,
the game was good. It
timeouts
would have
weren't an
been.
issue because there was so many stoppages by the damn refs.
Yeah. So, and again, that's a game where if they played 10 times, you take out the penalties, that probably Bills win 5 times, Jets win 5 times. They looked pretty like similar on the
I
field,
mean,
but
the game was close. The game was a close game. I mean, you almost called it with the Jets, and as the week went on, I was like, did I screw up there?
yeah, we both thought this game would be a 3-point game. And well, you said 4, I said 3. It was. We knew this game would be close. And also, to jump back a little, let's give an NFL picks update, Casino. And this week you won by guessing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 games correctly.
That ties my last year or my last year's record. I think I had 13 on one season. Yeah, I
Yes.
went 13 for 14, right?
Yes, and the only game
Woo!
the only game we had different was Jets Bills. You picked
And
Bills,
I
I
don't
picked Jets,
right, and then the ones we lost was the Monday night game
or the
against
Thursday night. The
or the
Thursday night
Thursday
game.
night game,
We both picked
Seahawks.
Seahawks when it was
Why
49ers.
did we pick the Seahawks? They were on a 2-game losing skid, and why are we I thought about that all weekend. I'm like, why? Why? I mean, they were on a 2-game skid. Yes, they were playing at home, but they're also playing Brock Purdy, who you and I have a big hype on. I saw so many things today about uh or yesterday and today about Brock Purdy like being compared to Garoppolo and Garoppolo being compared to Kaepernick. And I'm like, the hell? Like Brock Purdy's stats is like there's gonna be no love for this guy
No.
until he wins a Super Bowl, and even then, I'm still questioning if people are gonna love him or not.
Mhm.
I feel so bad
Uh,
for the dude.
well, let's go right to it,
Yeah,
Casino.
I know we were. That's why it was a great segue.
That was a great
We gotta get
segue.
we gotta design shirts when we hang out next Monday to discuss everything about the show. We're gonna design a shirt, a segue shirt.
Completely agree. But the 49ers, going all the way back to Thursday night's game, win 36-24. Our boy, as we were just talking about, Brock Purdy, goes 18 for 28, 255 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Also had 4 carries, 19 yards. Debo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings. Those were the 4
Juwan Jennings.
those were the 4 most targeted and most receiving yards altogether. So again,
Yeah, 18 for 28, 3 touchdowns, 250, 5,
yeah. And then
quarterback rating
Geno
of
Smith,
96. or
Again,
90
like
and
you
point
say,
six.
Geno Smith, 30 for 52. Why are you having Geno Smith throw the ball 32 times? At one
And there
point,
you go. The I said 30, but call it just 20, 25. That's a 26. 26 to 1 interception ratio. Like, come on, man. Like, I
yeah,
know that sorry, I'm cutting you off a lot today, and I'm really all
you are.
for it. I don't care. But I mean, I will, honey. He spread the ball quite a lot. Like, everybody was getting massive targets, but that's what's gonna happen when you throw the ball that many times.
Well, also, thank you, DK Metcalf. Targeted 11 times, only caught the ball 3 times for 48 yards. Gotta you.
I
Great
didn't
job.
see the targets until just now. Oh my
Great
gosh.
job. But then, so my question to you, Casino, for when it comes to the 49ers, now 3-3, we can look it up right now. I believe they're atop the standings in the NFC. Yes, because that was the game to see who would be the top of the NFC West. Cardinals have kind of fallen off, even though I feel like they started hot and now they're 2-4. Rams, you got to feel bad for. Honestly, they're just injury plagued, like maybe the worst of any other team. So now that the San Francisco 49ers are atop the NFC West, 3-3, they've kind of found I won't say replacement, but a good backup plan in Jordan Mason with CMC basically, even though there's rumblings that he could be back in a couple weeks and not miss the whole season. But still, they have their guys back in Debo, Kittle, Ayuk is finally contributing at least a little. Do you think the 49ers are officially back?
Um, I I think they have definitely got on the right track. Now they gotta get moving, but they have definitely got themselves back on the track. They beat the Patriots in week 1, they beat the Jets, they lost to the Vikings in a 6-point game. You know, Vikings are undefeated. The Rams was an upset to me. Cardinals were always feisty. You lose by 1 and then, then you beat the Seahawks. So I'm all right with their season so far, with them having to figure out their offense. They're pretty much just doing what the Rams couldn't do. And they were able to get some replacements in there and uh, get them up to speed quickly. I mean, they do have they're probably going to lose this coming week, and they got the Chiefs, even though they're favored against the Chiefs at 1.5.
Really?
As
Well,
of
I guess
right now,
it is in home, or it
that
is a
is at
home game for
home.
them.
Ugh, I don't know, man. That's a big ask. I mean, this is a repeat of the Super Bowl. We'll see how that goes. I think I don't know. The odds are blowing me away that it's minus 1.5 for the Niners. But I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I'm okay with the Niners. I think they'll make the playoffs. In this division, I think they will probably end up winning this division. That's who I had picked. I think you picked them as well to pick the
Yeah. Yeah.
gotcha.
Even though I picked the Rams to be a playoff team, but again, with the injuries, that kind of negates any of the, at full strength, you can never really predict that. But I
Yeah. I
think when
mean,
it comes,
we saw the Seahawks Niners game last night or the other night, and that shows you who's going to be atop of that division. It's going to be the Niners.
yeah. And I also, the only thing that would give me pause is looking at their upcoming schedule. They do play, like you said, they play the Chiefs, then they play the Cowboys, which again, the Cowboys are on the road. So
Cowboys are done.
it might actually be a
Cowboys are
competitive
done.
team.
Stick a fork in them. Stick a fork in them. They're done.
But then they have a bye. But then after the bye, their 5 game stretch is Tampa Bay Bucks, Seattle Seahawks, Green Bay Packers, Buffalo Bills, Chicago Bears. All those teams are either second or first in their division. All of them have winning records, and most of those games are on the road. So that's going to be just a murderer's row. And then
Well, I
you
mean,
have to go,
the Bears aren't, but the Bears still have. I love that the NFC North, dude. What a juggernaut. Ah.
yeah. And then they kind of finish out three, four of the 3 games are kind of easy. They have the Rams, as we just talked about, Miami Dolphins, which might not be easy because Tua might be back by that point. But then they have
I don't want
Monday
him to
Night
play.
Football, Week 17, Detroit Lions. That might be a NFC Championship preview right there. That's and then they finish at the Cardinals. So again, if they can just get through after the bye, if they can get through that 5, 6 game stretch right there, that's really going to determine how A, they finish the season, and B, if they win their division. Because
Yeah.
oh,
You'll
Seattle,
you'll you'll know 5 games to the end of the season where they'll be.
yeah.
Um,
Uh, but
moving on. All right, that was a lot of talking about those 2, but let's get rolling on our marquee mid and miserable.
so that was our marquee matchup. Our second marquee matchup was Commanders at Ravens Casino. I know a game you were absolutely glued to.
I
Thoughts on the 4-2 Commanders losing 30-23 at the now 4-2 Baltimore Ravens?
I thought it was gonna be exactly what it was exactly what I thought it was gonna be. The Commanders were gonna play well. Jaden Daniels was gonna have a good game. He went 24 for 35 with 2 touchdowns, 269. Nice. And I mean, yeah, he had a great game. He really had a good game. He spread the ball. I mean, 4 receivers had 47 yards or more. Like that, they played good. They played good, but you can't go against King Henry. King Henry's back.
Yeah.
I I love watch. I mean, he was never really gone, but I love every second of King Henry, and Lamar Jackson played well, even though he had that interception. I mean, he only had 20 completions, but that he went 323 yards with only 20 completions, which is just insane to me. And then, yeah, just mind blowing. He did run the ball 11 times for 40 yards, but King Henry 132 yards, 2 touchdowns. And my favorite performer of that entire game for either team was Zay Flowers. What an absolute monster with 132 yards with 9 receptions. I just liked everything he was doing on that field.
Yeah. And it's crazy when you look at the season leaders. Derrick Henry has the most rushing yards in the league by over 100 yards and is currently at 704 yards after this game. The next closest one is Jordan Mason, as from the 49ers we just talked about, who is at 609 yards. Everybody else below them is not even to 500 yet. So he basically has 200 more yards than every other running back in the league,
Dude,
which
he's so good right now.
yeah, and when it comes to this game, this was the game for me that made me go, "Oh, the Commanders are legit." Because you can beat up any shit team every week. I mean, look at what the Cowboys do and not be a good team, right? But when you're new team, new coach, rookie quarterback, and you go into Baltimore, which is a team for what, the past 10, 15 years that has always been a top
20 years,
tier.
dude.
Yeah, has always been a top tier echelon team that is always a 10 or more win team. They're always
Especially
in
in
Super Bowl
Baltimore, man.
contention. Yeah, they always have a great defense, always have dynamic offense, and then you lose, but this is a game where if the Commanders go into Baltimore and lose by 3 touchdowns, you're like, well, of course, it's the Ravens, it's a rookie quarterback. Like, you can obviously make the excuses and be like, that's what's supposed to happen. But for them to go into Baltimore and play again, a team that had all the momentum, 3 wins in a row, getting their stars back, all that kind of stuff. You have the number one, you're playing against the number one running back in the league, and you go basically blow for blow. Every time the Ravens start coming back, the Commanders would score and make it a one possession game. And it was just every time the Ravens would do something, the Commanders would answer, and then they just basically ran out of time. Right. So,
Yeah, this was just so much. Yeah, it was a one score game the entire game. I'm looking it up right now, and then it was tied at one point at 10. There was the Justin Tucker field goal to make it 20-30. Um, but yeah,
but yeah, they never
it's
gave
just
up. They never
outstanding.
laid down. The game never felt out of reach, even though you knew the Commanders weren't going to win it. It was just
So good.
that's what I like to see from young teams, young new coaching staffs. Like, you're going toe to toe with the best in the league. Like, that's what I like to see. Speaking of going toe to toe with the best in the league, but the opposite casino where you get spanked instead. Let's talk about my favorite game of the weekend, and that was the now 4-1 Detroit Lions winning 47-9 against the now Dallas Cowboys 3-3. This happened
Ugh.
in Jerry World. This happened in Dallas, which makes it that much
Oh,
sweeter.
what did I say? 0-3. This was gonna happen. I said it. Lions were gonna smack them. Oy
And
vey.
boy, did they. Dak Prescott finished the game 17 of 33, 178 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And if you watch that game, which I watched every snap of it, he could have easily thrown 5 interceptions in this game. I think 1 or 2 got called back by a penalty. 2 of them hit a Lions defender basically in the hands and they dropped him. This could have been a 5, maybe 6 interception game from Dak
I
Prescott.
mean,
That's how bad it was.
I mean, yeah, they put in Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush was able to have like a damn near full uh quarter to himself,
Yeah.
which is just insane. And another thing, these are another reason why it was just an absolute ass whooping is the Lions. I loved that they kept Jared Goff in there for a good while. I was like, well, when are they gonna take him out? But they tried not one, not two, but 3 plays to try to get their offensive lineman to score. I
Yeah.
mean, two of them were damn close. One of them should have been a touchdown. I mean, he got it in, which was a great reach by that big man. That was a great extension. That was running back-esque. It was beautiful. And then the last one, he was eligible but didn't do anything. Man, that's such a callback to that game last season in the playoffs where it was the ineligible receiver, but it wasn't, and it got the call wrong and all that jazz. Like, dude,
Yeah.
I love the pettiness of Dan Campbell to try to do that. I thought that was the greatest thing. The announcers were just laughing their ass off about it.
Yeah.
Um, I love
And
it.
but again, the thing we have to talk about from this game,
This is
it was
sad,
all roses for the Lions, except
except
for the gruesome leg injury from Aiden
Aiden
Hutchinson,
Hutchinson.
who gets
He had a
basically his
sack in that
leg
game.
shattered.
Yeah. I mean, it was like, yeah, shattered.
Shattered.
Fibula. It was or what was it? Tibia, fibula. It was both, right? That
I
he
think
snapped?
I mean, it looked like I mean,
Well, I mean,
his
so
foot
for our
turned.
viewers here, it looked like this. That
Yeah.
was his leg wrapping around. I
Ugh.
just crushed a can, by the way, for those who are listening. Like,
And
it just snapped around the dudes, and that is not product placement for Alon. That's just me enjoying them.
ugh. But he was the sack leader in the NFL at 7.5 sacks. He had that one insane game where he had
Last
like,
was yeah, it was last week.
or no, I think it was earlier in the season where he literally had a game where he got like 3 or 4 sacks in a game. I
Well,
can't.
there was a great stat where he had more, touchdowns than, like, all these superstar receivers, via his, like, interception,
Oh,
ru
it was week 2 when he had 4.5 sacks against Tampa Bay and Baker Mayfield. So one game he had 4.5 sacks, which is crazy. But yeah, with the loss of Aiden Hutchinson, Casino, how much do you think this
Ooh.
affects the Lions defense?
I mean, that's Jared Goff better do what he just did. I'll say that because that's a huge blow. I mean, we've talked about their defense not being 100%, up to par to what we expected them this season, and that's your shining star. Like that's your north star right there,
Yep.
and he gets his leg snapped. Like that's as bad as when you watched the UFC fight. If anybody's a UFC fan, when the Brazilian fighter, I forget his name. Oh my gosh, now I'm just totally blanking. I can't even make this segu.
I don't watch UFC, so I don't know.
Anyway, well, he went for a leg kick and it totally wrapped around the other dude's leg.
Ugh.
Like you watched it, like literally, like wrap and like retouch the side of his leg. Anyway, that was gross. Yeah, no, this is gonna hurt a lot. But what I did like, and you sent it to me, was the locker room afterwards. The love that this team has for each other. The Dan Campbell with Jared Goff and all of his players. Like Jared Goff got his got the game ball, and he just before Dan Campbell was trying to leave the locker room, and Jared Goff was like, wait, coach," and he gave him the game ball. Dan Campbell was almost crying. Like I don't know if you go watch that video, go find it. Maybe we'll post it on our social media, and we're still figuring out the whole social media thing, my friends. But yeah, you try to watch that, and yeah, Dan Campbell was almost in tears. That locker room, you said it best. Like if they don't win the Super Bowl this year, yes, even with Hutchinson out for the season, I don't know, man. Like this is a tight knit group. There we go. I passed the first grade.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Uh,
But yeah,
whew.
and also just from that game perspective, it was the worst home loss in 35 years for the Cowboys at home. So
And it could have been so much more if they weren't just dicking around
yeah. Well, that's
trying
the
to
thing. Yeah.
trying to get
Uh
their offensive lineman a touchdown.
so the Lions finished this week as the 13th best defense in the league. I don't know how that improves with Aiden Hutchinson now
They might
presumably
stay
out
under.
for
They
the
might
season.
stay. Oh, dude, he's done for the season.
Yeah.
He went straight that right after they carted him off the field. He went straight to the hospital. He had surgery. He was still in the hospital as of last night. Um, so that tells me right there, if you had surgery on your leg and you're still in the hospital, like if it's just like a broken bone surgery and you're still in the hospital now, it was bad. It's bad. They had to
Yeah.
do a lot of reconstructing. I'm sure. I'm sure he might they probably have plates and everything in there and rods and whatnot. Um, he's going to turn into the new Gronkowski.
Ugh. Well, best of luck and a speedy recovery to Hutchinson. You hate to
Yeah,
see that, and you hope he just comes back at full
yeah.
force.
It seems like everybody liked him too. Like
Yeah.
everybody in the media, all in jazz.
But let's talk about Casino next up, and only because it's topical. Steelers at Raiders. We don't really have to talk about the game so much, except for one sense, which is it ended up being a 32-13 blowout win by the Pittsburgh Steelers in Vegas. Justin Fields finishes the game 14 for 24, 145 yards. Zero touchdowns, zero interceptions, runs the ball 11 times, 59 yards, two touchdowns. And it's announced today that not only will he not be the starting quarterback for the Steelers this week, but that it will be Russell Wilson stepping in for him instead. Thoughts on this move, Casino?
I hate it. I hate it. You're four, dude. You're 4-2. I can't wait for Russell Wilson to have 3 picks, get absolutely annihilated, and this is what's going to keep they're proving all of us wrong again. All the media wrong again. That the one Steelers guy. You know what? Fuck. I'll say it finally. Hats off to you, motherfucker. The Steelers guy from 3 years ago, whatever it was
Still
when we
lives in
started.
our head rent free.
He
Yeah.
does. I hope he still listens to this podcast. But anyway, I know he didn't have a great through the air game, but he protected the football through the air. He ran for 2 touchdowns. What else do you want from this guy? Like seriously, what else do you want from him? I hate it. I know you said that Russell Wilson was going to be your quarterback, a while back, and he was the number one. He won the starting job, but this is 6 games into the season for crying out loud. This is 6 games. This is over a third of your season, and you just decide, and that is a third of the season, 6 weeks, and you decide just now we're going to go back to Russell Wilson because he's healthy. He better prove us. He better prove the media and everybody wrong. But I
Yeah.
think this move is going to stop the Steelers from making the playoffs. I think this, unless they, come back off of him, but this is going to keep the Steelers from being probably 500, just over 500 because of the 17 weeks, 17 games. But it's so dumb. So dumb.
Yeah. It also should be noted that apparently this was made in a press conference with Mike Tomlin, where he said that Russell Wilson would be getting first team reps this year. And then the reporter, Tom Pelissero, kind of ran with it that he will be in line to make his season debut Sunday night. So it's not confirmed
But it's
that Russell Wilson is the starting quarterback. But again, why are you giving your backup quarterback first team reps and then announcing that to the media so then this speculation and stuff can begin? But
and for being somebody who's smart with the media, this is dumb to me.
yeah,
But I will say, last thing on this is, I've always said it. I know that Steeler fans show up. But dear God, my place of work had so many Steeler fans in it after the game.
Dude, I
Like,
told
it
you.
was
Yeah.
mind blowing. I would probably say, and this is not an exaggeration by any means, I would probably say about 2/3, which is insane to think. 2/3 of my clientele the other night were Steelers fans on Sunday night. It
Yeah.
was mind blowing, like fully face painted, rally towels hanging off, and the terrible towels. And I had to go up and I asked him, I was like, "What was the stadium like between Raider fans?" I know it's a lot of black, but Raider fans, Steeler fans, there was like 80-20. So let's just call it 65-35, Steeler fans. And
Yeah.
I would believe that.
I told you, Vegas, I've
I
always
truly
been
believe that.
Steelers fans. It's crazy how many Steelers fans we have out here.
Yeah.
But also, last
Whew.
note on Justin Fields, so
Go ahead.
far this season, 10 touchdowns, 1 interception, and 6 fumbles, only one of them lost. So basically, he has 10 touchdowns, 2 turnovers, and
Let's
his
move
team
off
is
him.
4-2.
Let's move
So,
off him.
ugh, why? I hope it's just rumors that it's getting messy.
Anyway, all right.
Uh,
We need to start rolling through some stuff because we got a lot of college football too as well.
yeah.
Let's start rolling.
All right, we can touch on both our teams' casino. If you want to listen to my full thoughts on Eagles Browns, go listen to the Sunday solo show. That is
Wow,
where I
we
gave.
just cut off 20 minutes of the show right there.
Yeah, exactly. My just expedited thoughts are just the news coming out of this game about Nick Sirianni like yelling at fans for some reason is the number one story. I don't give a shit about that at all. Everybody on the team, all the players have said they like that from him. Nobody likes the Eagles to begin with, so if you don't like that, like you're not going to like anything about the Eagles and you're just going to find something to bitch about. So I don't really care about that. Literally 0%. I thought that was one of the best games Hertz has played in a long time. No turnovers, 2 touchdowns, really smart throws, smart runs. They obviously need to run the ball with Saquon more, but when you're playing the Browns, have a great defense. That's kind of what happens. And then Deshaun Watson, first time in a long time watching a full game with him in, and he is hands down the worst quarterback in the league. He is god awful. He throws more balls into the dirt and 20 feet over his receivers' heads than any quarterback I've ever seen. He is so washed, it's not even funny.
Do you know what his
And
QBR was for that game?
I mean, he was
Take
15
a guess.
23, 168 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. I'm guessing like 34.
Yeah, you saw it. You looked.
I know, I really
It's
didn't.
34.8. By the way, my
Damn.
daughter just walked up to me and she's like, "Is it Halloween yet?" And I was like, "No, in a couple weeks." My wife bought buckets for them to pails, right?
Yeah.
Well, they got the dimensions wrong.
Dear Lord.
And she goes, "Can we use this?" And well, while I was muted, I was like, "No." And she goes, "Why? I want more candy." It's like, she knows what's up.
That she's not even gonna be able to carry that if it fills up.
Oh
Uh,
no, we're getting something different.
yeah. But thoughts on this game, Casino, and then we can move on.
Um, Fly Eagles fly. Browns suck.
Speaking of our team's casino, we have to talk about yours. The first
It was
matchup,
almost blowout of the week.
almost blowout of the week. If not for the game we're going to talk about next, but Texans Patriots. Texans win 41-21, but really the story of this game is the Drake May experience. First start of his career, 20 for 33, 243 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Thoughts on your new quarterback, Casino?
So the one interception was a tip up. I don't really blame him for that, and it was an insane interception because he caught it around the defender, or caught it around the offensive player, which was just crazy to see. I don't know if you saw that. Like he did the whole reach around, grab, touchdown
Yeah,
behind it,
yeah.
and then the fumble that he had, I don't blame him. It was a blind side, and he just got absolutely just rocked from behind, like just destroyed. I feel bad. I feel bad. Um, I do because he's just gonna get his ass whooped. I mean, he impressed me a little bit more than I thought he was
Mhm.
going to. I mean, 20 for 33. He had the 3 touchdowns. Good on him. Um, I want to see what he could do with a decent offensive line, not the worst offensive line in the league.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
also,
he showed. I mean, his QBR was 31.3, so it's not good. But you had 2 interceptions. That's expected. You should your first NFL start, but you do throw 3 touchdowns. I mean, we talked about all these big quarterbacks that are, the top 3 quarterbacks. Oh, he was, but you know what I'm saying. We had um, Caleb Williams, we had Bo Nix, we had Jaden Daniels. They didn't throw a touchdown for till week 4, right?
yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So, like, I mean, he did. Well done against the Texans. This is the first Texans win in Foxborough as well. So, you know what? They played much better than I thought they were going to play. Um, Truly, and yeah,
And it also looked like they had at least some offensive identity, more so than the one they had with Jacoby Brissett.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean, that's all I got to say there. So, I want to see what he could do with a decent offensive line. Hopefully, they get that figured out in the offseason. I don't want it to be another. I think Drake May is much better than uh, Mac Jones, but I don't want it to be another Mac Jones situation where you just constantly are rotating offensive coordinators, different offenses, and he doesn't really have a chance to show what he can do with no offensive players either. So hopefully the Patriots, get the number 1 overall pick. They pick a receiver. Sorry,
Bless
everybody.
you.
They pick a receiver, and then they just work on the O line and maybe another running back or something. Just work on the offense. The defense, I know, is a sieve as well, but yeah, they just need an offense, a defense, and some rule changes.
um, the last game I wanted to talk about, just
Uh,
with you, and then we can kind of just give our overall thoughts on the rest of the games. Is of course the Bake Show and going to
whew,
New Orleans, putting up 51 points, 51 to 27.
God, Baker Bakes.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers now 4-2. You look at the stats from this game. Baker Mayfield 24 for 36, 325, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions.
Yeah, the interceptions weren't good, but
No, and then Spencer Rattler, actually not that bad. 22 for
for
40,
for his
243
debut
yards.
as well, good on him.
Yeah, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Even though I don't like Spencer Rattler, I really have nothing against him. So good on him. And also, again, why you asking a rookie quarterback in his debut game to throw 40 times? But uh thoughts on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Casino? Are you
Um,
sold on them being a Super Bowl contender?
Super Bowl contender, no. Playoffs with a win or two, sure. I definitely see them making the playoffs. We've had that. I Baker is good. Yes, he threw the three picks there, but I mean, and I mean Chris Godwin, what a game as well. 2 touchdowns, 125 yards. And then Tucker with the rushing. I didn't even see those stats until I'm looking at them now. You tighten up. Like this could have been so much worse. It was and probably a 60 to 70 point game if you just tightened up on those interceptions and you just didn't give the ball away.
Yeah. Well, they also, what is it? They also just randomly found this Tucker guy apparently on their team who rushed for 14 carries, 136 yards, 1 touchdown. There was all this talk about Bucky Irving now all of a sudden taking over the starting running back role. And then Tucker comes out of nowhere and almost doubles his run per average, even though they had both the same amount of carries. Bucky Irving still had a great game, 14 carries, 81 yards, 1 touchdown. I picked Sean Tucker up in my fantasy football league, so hopefully he leads me to the promised land. But I'm sure, like everything this fantasy season, when I get a new player on my team who just had a great week, they never have another good week. So that's what I'm counting on. But in this game, shocking that the Buccaneers put up 51 points, and none of that was basically to Mike Evans. He only had 2 receptions, 34 yards. This was the Chris Godwin game, 11 receptions, 125 yards, 2 touchdowns. And we leave this game with the Buccaneers defense still being 26th. So again, I think when you look at teams kind of like Seattle last year, where they have a amazing offense and then no defense, you're basically in a shootout every week and you just have to score uh probably double the amount of points of everybody else to just squeak away with the victory. So again, given 27 points up from the Saints by a rookie quarterback, and Alvin Kamara did nothing that game. So that is my only concern with the Buccaneers, is their defense being a bottom 5 defense in the league. But again, they have the offense to outscore everybody. So I agree with Casino. I don't think they're Super Bowl contenders, because I don't think you can get to a Super Bowl with your defense being that bad, but they definitely do feel like a fringe NFC divisional round. Maybe they can get to an NFC championship game. But yeah, I mean, we already saw them lose by 4 points against the Lions. So it's not like they're getting destroyed in their losses. They've already beat some playoff contenders, obviously like my Eagles, and then they went toe to toe with the Lions. So if they can shore up their defense a little, maybe find a little defensive consistency and a little defensive uh identity, I feel like they'll be a real threat. All right, Casino,
Oh,
you ready
yeah.
to move on to,
Yes.
let's see, let's move on to
Sorry.
college football. Any other thoughts, any other games you want to talk about before we move on?
Let me just. I do know I wanted to just say, good job on Jordan Love. I thought that he needed to have a good game, and he did against the Cardinals. What was his whole situation?
4 touchdowns, 1 interception,
Yeah,
22 for 32,
yeah,
258.
81 and a half QBR. Like, he showed up. Good on him.
Yeah.
Great for him. Also, I was so happy about the Indianapolis game because Joe Flacco had to come back late. Ooh, boy, was I happy about that shit. Um,
I posed this question on the Sunday show, Casino. Is Joe Flacco elite?
I mean, he won a Super Bowl. He has to be elite, right?
I mean, that is the logic. That is the logic. I think honestly, I was making the case. I feel like you could put him on 10 other teams and he'd be better than their starting
I
quarterbacks.
would say so, yeah. So
Yeah.
good. I love Flacco. I love let Flacco go.
The Flacco
Um,
resurgence is fun. It really
it's so much fun. And then talking about another old quarterback, the last thing we could talk about is Kirk Cousins. Not great, but protected the ball. Good on him. Good on him. Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff. Oh,
Yeah, who
and
would have thought the NFC South and the NFC North would be like the 2 funnest, best
got
division,
it.
most
And,
fun divisions in football?
and then the last thing I want to talk about is Joe Burrow didn't have the best game. But that New York defense, we've talked about it. It's much better than people thought it was going to be. Because Joe
Yeah.
Burrow, he tried, man, but he got absolutely wrecked. He had to drop back so much. Like, he was under pressure, like, the
The
whole game,
entire game.
the
Yeah.
entire game. So for him to get enough to win, good for him. All right, that's all I had. I just wanted to touch on those couple quarterbacks.
And then a little fun stat of the day, Casino. The 4 best point differential
I guess
teams
Caleb Williams
in
had a
the
good game
league.
too, but whatever, fuck off.
The 4 best point differential teams in the league are Lions, Packers, Vikings, Bears. So the 4 best point differential teams in the league are all NFC North teams, which I don't think has ever happened this late in the season. And that's pretty insane. And as we talked about on Sunday's show, literally 1 win separates all those teams from either being first or last in that division. So NFC North, especially Caleb at his best game, probably Jordan Love at his best game of the season. You could
Yeah.
make the argument Goff had his best game of the season, and then the Vikings were on a bye. So it's just one of those things where that division literally is every single game matters, especially in division, because 1 win separates you from either being first with a potential, first round bye, or last in that division and potentially missing the playoffs. So that's a really fun division. Let's scoot on over, Casino, to college football. Uh, kind of, kind of mediocre week for how many big games.
Mediocre.
Funny thing is, the week that everybody was not excited for had like it was the best week of college football we've had in a long time. And then this week, when it had all the games everybody was excited for, kind of disappointing.
Well, I
Uh,
can I can roll through these if you want. So
yeah,
let me go. So USC, they need to move off of Miller. Oh, they just have to. He didn't lose by much against Penn State, but they're 3-3 now. And I mean, they did lose against Penn State, who's now 6-0 and fourth in the nation. Which look what happens to an organization if you don't have somebody diddling kids. Great job. Like, fantastic. But I really wanna see, our guy, our Vegas local, our native, the guy who was our quarterback last year at UNLV, Maava, I wanna see him get the start going into next week. I mean, you're 3-3, you're pretty much done with the playoffs. Like, you're done. So, why not see what you got in this other guy, um, who was supposed to sign with Georgia and then signed with you. Anyway, um, funny game is, did you watch the Alabama South Carolina game?
yes, I did.
Wow. I South Carolina so close to having that done. I don't like the last play to make that interception for Alabama. Just hucking it down there. You had a little bit of time still. South Carolina did. I mean, not much, but you were right there in field goal range. I would much rather try to give your kicker a 64-yard field goal attempt than try to do, I mean, a Hail Mary that didn't even make it to the damn end zone.
No,
Um,
that the last like 3 minutes of that game were some of the most frustrating, just
yeah,
college
so
football nonsense I've ever seen.
I mean, South Carolina. So what they did is they got down there, they got the score, then they did the onside kick, got the ball, which everybody's losing their damn mind. They had a real shot of beating Bama. Even with Bama winning this game, I don't see how Bama stays 7. I think they drop to mid-teens
Yeah.
easily.
Well,
I
especially
mean, I know
because the
South Car
last
South I
3
mean, South
weeks,
yeah,
they've just been mediocre, like, beyond
mediocre.
mediocre.
Every time you say mediocre, I'm gonna say it like that. It's great.
Mediocre.
Mediocre. I mean, because South Carolina, I mean, they're 3-3. I mean, they were 3-2 at that game, like, not great of a team. Their 2 losses weren't that good of losses. So, man, Alabama, man, I told you that, and I remember saying it, and I love it, that after that Vandy loss, they were gonna be shook, and they were shook. They almost lost to South Carolina at home. Wow.
Yeah.
Um, the Texas Oklahoma game, Texas is clearly the number 1. I saw somebody talk about, and this actually pissed me off tremendously, where they were talking about now Oregon is 2, and they were talking about Oregon, um, or Texas keeping Alabama or keeping Texas. Damn it, Texas keeping Oregon away from taking that number 1 spot. It was a close one. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Like,
No.
Texas just beat a ranked team. I know Oregon just
34-3. Like,
yeah,
didn't beat them, annihilated them
right, and then
on
yeah,
their home turf.
Oregon, Ohio State, you can have some watermelon. That's just you can open it up and have some. Thank you for asking. Good manners, my daughter. Over here, doing something right. But yes, Oregon, they did beat number 3, or at that time number 2 to jump them. But it's not like Texas played, a slump. They played Oklahoma, who's ranked. Like
Yeah.
it's
Red River
so
rivalry, all that kind of stuff.
Texas
Yeah.
Texas is clearly the number 1. Oregon struggled early on in the season that Texas hasn't struggled. Texas is just elite, elite. So it made me laugh when they talked about that. That was just dumb. And they held Oklahoma to 3 points in Oklahoma. They absolutely annihilated them in that Red River um, uh,
Rivalry.
rivalry. Thank you. Which is I love that rivalry, and I love every time because this stadium is just one side is Oklahoma fans, one side is Texas fans. I think it's the coolest way to do a pro college football game. Notre Dame absolutely smoked. Illinois barely beat Purdue in overtime. I mean, the Illinois, I mean, they're 5-1. They're just fun team to watch. Like every game
I
just
agree.
seems like very intriguing and close, and I've enjoyed every game that they've done.
Yeah.
So LSU did beat Old Miss, sadly in OT. I wanted Old Miss just because fellow Rebels, go Rebels, but I'm not a big LSU fan. The only good thing to come out of LSU was Joey B. Um, all day. I'm happy Kansas State won. I wanted Kansas State to lose to help UNLV, but I'm happy Colorado lost because I'll be honest, I'm not a Sanders fan. I'm just not.
Do you think the final play of that game was pass interference?
Um, uh,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes, it was.
yeah, it
That was
was.
pass interference.
It
We have
was.
to stop trying to do this thing where we make judgment calls on obvious plays. That was one of the most obvious pass interferences you're ever gonna see.
Yeah,
But
it's sad.
again, the officiate you can't have a football game without officiating being bad. Like, you just can't. That's just the world we live in. That
Gotcha.
was awful.
So,
Go on.
before we get to one final game, we got to talk about just. We don't even have to talk about everything about Boise State. We just have to talk about one freaking player on Boise State, and that. Oops, sorry. Ouch, heartburn. Ashton Gentry, Genty,
Genty.
Genty,
Yeah.
Ashton Genty. He had 31 carries for 217 yards. That is their offense. Like, yes, their quarterbacks, Maddox had a good game, but no, I mean, 217 yards, another touchdown for him. So this is his stats. I know we talked about it, like, I think a few weeks ago, um, but so far, this kid 126 carries, 1,248 yards, and 17 touchdowns. And we are through 6 games. That's 6 games, my friends. He's averaging over 200 yards a game rushing.
Yeah, that's insane. He's
And,
gonna go down as one of the definite top 10 running backs you've ever seen in college,
dude,
potentially be higher than
he
that.
is 1 touchdown away from being 3 touchdowns a game.
That is insane. And you
I
know what?
would
He's fun to watch.
dude,
He's really fun to watch.
he might honestly, because I mean, he's eligible this year, right? He's a junior. So you should be eligible for the draft coming up. If he doesn't go top 5, hey, it's a fucking sham. It's a
Yeah,
sham. He might go
yeah.
top 3.
I mean, yeah, we always know quarterback's gonna go 1, but there's always a team in the top 5 that doesn't need a quarterback, and how is he not the pick? How do you
How is
not
he
pick him?
not the pick? How is he not the pick? He's just outstanding. So then let's move into the last game. Unless you have any other games, we're gonna talk Ohio State, Oregon. Do you have anything else you want to talk?
Not for I watched the BYU Arizona game. BYU's really
Why?
good.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think I watched like half of the Missouri UMass game, and because I thought there was a chance for an upset there because I don't really like Missouri this year, didn't
Oh,
wasn't even close.
yeah,
Got
45-3.
absolutely yeah. But other than that, yeah, go
All
on.
right. So did you watch this game? The Ohio
Ohio
State
State,
Oregon?
Oregon?
Yes.
Yes, I did. Watch the whole thing.
So obviously it was a good game. It was punch left and right. Everything was going fun. And you know what? Penalties were a lot more for Ohio State. My daughter's just having that blast over there. Um, Way more penalties. There was 8 penalties for Ohio State and only 3 for Oregon. But watching it, it felt pretty okay. What's your thoughts on that last play?
Refresh my memory on the last play. Oh,
It
the
was
where the guy slides.
slides and tries to get the
Yes.
timeout called.
Well, I think the big issue in this game for Oregon is the just this year and this use of Judkins. I mean, without if we were coming into this season, obviously the Boise State running back is the clear number 1, but Judkins was talked about as a top 5 running back in college, and just this season has really kind of done nothing. He
Yeah.
was in this game 11 attempts for 23 yards, but again, when we talk about that last play, it is so there's like the thing, I don't know if you've read where it was like Oregon did the too many men on the field to get the penalty that moved or Ohio State closer, but then it also ran off the clock. So really they only had 6 seconds. So people are saying that was one of those things that was planned and they
And
did
if
it
it
on
was,
purpose,
but you know
but
what? If it was,
well, that's what I'm saying. Genius.
genius.
Yeah.
That's a Bill Belichick style genius where they're gonna have to rewrite the rule book.
Yeah. No,
'Cause
that
how
was
many
one of
times did
those
the
things
NFL have to
where
how many times did the NFL have to rewrite the rule book after Bill Belichick doing something?
yeah,
Like
but,
3, 4 times?
then the, Ohio State quarterback does the,
Will Howard?
now affectionately called the Dak Prescott, where he just runs up the middle, slides out of time. I just think, again, there's so many, and you feel bad saying it because it's with college players, but there's so many games in college football where I watch where it's just like everybody playing either has super low football IQ or just seems like they don't care. Like there's just, I mean, we talked about the
Well, with
UNLV
the
a couple of
NIL
weeks
now,
ago.
man, you're gonna get paid. If you know you're not gonna make the NFL and you get paid, why should you care? Like, you're getting paid already.
Yeah. But no, we talked about the UNLV game a couple weeks ago where it was just like the defender on basically the game sealing play just launches himself at the other quarterback just helmet to helmet, and it's just like how do you, in these scenarios, it's like you have to know, everybody knows watching it, the one thing you can't do is let the clock run out. The
Mhm.
second you can't do is get a sack. The third thing you can't do is just run up the middle. So they're giving you the chance in that moment to run up the middle because that's what they want you to do. So, like this bonehead play of just like, oh yeah, I'll just run up the middle. And then what? It takes 8 seconds to restart. You're starting with 6 seconds. So you think you're going to run up the middle and then do what afterwards? Even if you run up the middle and you still have 2 seconds left on the clock, it's going to take minimum 8 seconds for everybody to get back to the line so you can
Well,
spike it.
don't
So,
I thought the rules were if you go down and you're on the ground and you call a timeout, you get the timeout.
well, they didn't have a timeout. I don't think they had a timeout in that minute, that at
No,
that second.
they had 1.
Did they have one timeout?
Yeah,
Well, even still,
that was the
what
whole
is it?
thing.
You only have 6 seconds. So there's no way he thought he did all of that in 3 seconds. Like, did
Yeah.
he really think that
No,
he
he lost.
did all that in
It
5?
was the 3 pump fakes that he did before he took off that cost him that, because it was very close. I mean, it was clearly not called timeout in time, but it was close.
Yeah, but
But
why even take the risk is
right,
what
take
I'm
the
saying.
risk. Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
wouldn't you
give
rather have, instead of
again, try your
gain
kicker kicking the ball again.
yeah, gain 10 yards and then what is it? Gain 10 yards and spike it. Wouldn't you rather just try to do like an outside hitch to get a couple extra yards or just spike the ball and just have your kicker try to do it? We see every week now a kicker in college hitting a 50+ yard field goal. Like
Yeah.
we see it every week now. It's insane.
So,
But
did you see the you've obviously watched The Boys, I know you have, on Amazon. The whole yeah, the Homelander thing where, like, after he blows that dude up, like, everybody's cheering and whatnot, and he's like, "Ha ha, ha ha." It was that, but the caption was like, Oregon or Ohio State's kicker, after the timeout wasn't called in time, or like Will Howard sliding, and he didn't have to miss a 48-yard field goal.
yeah, exactly.
And it's that meme of him like, "Oh." It's the great it's like 100%. I mean, that kicker was shitting himself.
Uh, but now that we've talked about college football casino, we'll predict the big games on Thursday. Obviously, the biggest game in college football coming up this week is Georgia, Texas, which is going to be huge. But now it is time to move on to
The final
Casino's
segment
Corner. What'd you say?
I said the final segment.
Casino's Corner. Let me get in my little box so Casino can have the
You have
full
such a little
box.
box.
For Casino's Corner, hit us with it.
So we'll just start off before we get into the MLB. We'll start off with the WNBA playoffs for those who care. I know BJ does not. Anyway, I know, but it is getting more televised now, so I'm gonna touch on it real quick. The Minnesota Lynx did take Game 1 in an OT thriller, which was pretty insane. That New York was leading the entire game by sometimes like 20, 25 points, and then the Minnesota Lynx came back. I thought this was going to be a sweep for the Liberty, but it was not. Um, Tied it up late, and then took it in OT. But in game 2, the Liberty did came out and they handled business. So we still got a ways to go to figure out that. We do have tomorrow game now in Minnesota, because those first two took place in New York. Now it's going on the road because they only do best of 5 series for WNBA finals. And yeah, so we're looking there. And then so MLB as my again, how I know that this podcast is almost coming to an end. My daughter's going crazy again. I'm sure my son's about to wake up. I'm waiting for him to scream. Anyway, since we've last talked, Detroit Tigers did lose to the Cleveland Guardians. And so we have moved on to that. Let's pull up the games here. We've had a couple games already happen, and the Dodgers, yeah, honey, the Dodgers absolutely annihilated the Mets in game one. Yes, go. You can go in Colby's room. Go wake up your brother. That's fine. Shoo. Get out of here. Go. So much better. Thanks for holding in there, guys. With Casino's Corner. So Dodgers absolutely annihilated the Mets, just destroyed them. And then game two, thank you, honey. And then game two yesterday, the Mets did beat the Dodgers. So now that series is tied 1-1. I'm really happy the Mets took that one on the road because now they have to go through New York. The Dodgers do to win that series. So good on them. And then we also have the Guardians down 1-0 against the Yankees. We do have that game today. Today is being that Tuesday. Yeah, the Yankees are just going to roll. I mean, it was a much closer game. This is going to be a much closer series than the other one, in my opinion. But it's going to be a Yankees Dodgers World Series, and if it's not, again, baseball's a sham. And with that being said, everything is done. My son was not awake, by the way, but my daughter just went and woke him up just because. Yeah, I like finishing on Casino's Corner every single week. Why? Because it just turns into chaos in my house. Like it just
Yeah. That's the way we do it on this podcast. This podcast being the only sports podcast. Anything else to say before we get out of here, Casino?
I had something to say and I forgot what I was going to say.
As poignant as ever. This has been the Only Sports Podcast. I'm Will. That's Casino over there. We will see you Thursday to talk about week 7 in the NFL and week 8 in college football. Hopefully there will be much better matchups this week than there were this past week, and we can continue our trend of getting 12 to 13 to 14 picks right a week. So,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Let's do it. We'll see you Thursday. Adios.